Hey everybody, I'm Jack Wagner. I'm the bass and keyboard player for Anthem, and we are a Rush tribute band in San Diego. And since we have a little bit of downtime, I'm going to create a rig rundown video that shows you all of the synthesizer and MIDI gear that I use. Now I'm going to break this down into a series of videos so that the overall length is short, and also so that when you see the whole thing in its entirety, it's not all that complex and daunting, because when you break it down, each individual piece, it's easier to understand and it's not as complicated as it seems when you put it all together. So let's get into it. So I have two devices out of the devices that I use that generate audio. One is the JUNO-G synthesizer, and the other being a laptop. And the reason I mention it is because in my rack, I have a digital mixer that mixes those two signals. And the idea is to provide the sound man with just a single source of audio to hopefully make the sound man's job easier. Because there's nothing like having a pissed off sound man at you when you're at a gig, because you don't want that. Okay, so that's why I mentioned it. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the rack. A lot of it is set up to be for the in-ear monitor system that we use. I'm not going to discuss that. That's a whole new rabbit hole. It does get a little complicated. So, the first thing we have, as far as our synth gear, is the Roland JUNO-G. Like I said, it does generate audio, and it also generates MIDI. MIDI is a standard. It's called Musical Instrument Digital Interface. It's a standard way of devices to communicate with each other. And I'll discuss that a little bit more, but not too much. The next thing we have down here is the Roland PK-5A. It is a MIDI controller, meaning that it does not generate any audio. It generates only MIDI data. The next thing we have is this guy. It's a ActitioN MIDI controller, and obviously this is the 4-button version of it. And this is the only MIDI device that I have that generates MIDI over USB, or the one that I use that way. The other ones do also, but this is the only one that I use that goes MIDI over USB. Next up is the Roland drum pad, and in our case this is the SPD-SX, and the drum pad is capable of generating audio, but we don't use it that way. We only use the MIDI out of it, and I'll show you that in the video that's specific to the drum pad. Next up we have the rack. Like I said, most of that gear is there for our in-ear monitor system, and we're not going to discuss that. That's a whole new rabbit hole. But at the bottom of this we have the MIDI interface that I use. It's the MOTU MIDI Express XT, and it's all of the MIDI devices that use a standard 5-pin MIDI cable connect to that, and then the MIDI Express connects to my laptop via a USB interface. And the MOTU MIDI Express XT can take up to 8 MIDI ins and 8 MIDI outs. Next thing we have at the very bottom also, I have a little patch panel that I created, and it's just a color-coded way of connecting all the MIDI cables, so that a show or whatever, it's easy to connect everything up. And lastly we have the laptop. Now the laptop runs two key pieces of software. The first being Ableton Live, which is a digital audio workstation that's suited for live performance. And I won't dive too deep into that, but it's a very powerful tool, very robust and stable tool. And the next thing that I use software-wise is the MIDI Translator Pro software. It's made by a company called BOME software, and I probably mispronounced that. It's a French company. But it's a powerful tool that lets me interface this device to do some neat functions, and we will talk about that again in one of the later episodes of this video series. So that's the brief introduction to the gear. I hope you stick around and watch some of the other episodes. Till then, see you later.